This day in history in 5 minutes or less.
And it's gotten
Oh,
really commercialized
absolutely.
and kind of horrible. So I would say that there's been a lot of acceptance, but on only a certain level. Because one of the trade-offs. So after there was this humanization of gay people, and there was a big contingent, many straight, white, affluent males, by the way, who really pushed the marriage agenda.
Mhm.
And some of us felt that, I mean, even though I am married now, I gave in for the health insurance. I was not interested in buying into that heterosexist construct, you know. Like
Yeah.
we were supposed to ruin the sacrament of marriage, but there were game shows winning wives and husbands, you know. Like no, I wasn't going to buy into that shit. Um, and then there were certain books written by conservative gay writers. One of them was called "A Place at the Table." The other one was called "Virtual Normal." Virtually normal and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what this did was it made us more acceptable, those of us who had a choice, you know,
Yeah.
to be out and white mostly, honestly. Um, but there were the fringes that were left out, I think. And even the women's movement was sort of left out during that time. There was a lot of emphasis on gay marriage. And I think today, you know, you see this backlash that's happening against gay people, and I think it has a lot to do with this. Many of us volunteered to be heteronormalized,
Mm-hmm.
and our fringes were just left out. And now the fringes are in a lot of danger, I think.
Well, I am personally an advocate that the marriage license itself should come up for renewal. Like if I've got to renew my car registration every year,
Yeah,
every 5 years or so, I should get to renew my marriage license. And if I
right.
don't renew it, then we're just done.
Yeah.
That's a new idea, but I think it's a good one.
Well, I've
We
been with
should,
my
we
partner now
should.
for 30 years, if you can believe it. You know my partner, Doug.
Yes,
And
he's
he
fantastic.
likes to say how he knew he was in love with me the first week we met. And for me, it's always like, well, the jury's still out, you know, I'm still waiting to see. I'm going to decide this tomorrow, you know. But I
I
think
love
that's
it.
my way of doing exactly what you said, like keeping it fresh, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to shift a little bit. You wrote a review and you're pretty critical of the Venice Biennale. It was titled Foreigners Everywhere. What are some of the key issues that you had with the Venice Biennale?
The 60th Venice Biennale, the title of that is called Foreigners Everywhere. The title of my piece is Outing the Global South, Foreigners Everywhere, the 60th Venice Biennale pleasantly cancels itself out. I am very critical, despite the fact that this is curated by the first out queer curator, Adriano Pedrosa. He is clearly positioning this exhibition for the global North's gaze. He's inclusive of all of these global South artists, including refugees and queer people from all over the world and indigenous people under this title, Foreigners Everywhere. I don't understand that. Indigenous, the aboriginals, should would never consider themselves foreigners. As a queer person, I don't consider myself a foreigner. We're everywhere. We are everywhere, but I wouldn't say we're foreigners. So, yeah, the big problem I have with this is that he's sort of selling us out by really designing the exhibition for the global North's gaze and for the heterosexist gaze. Otherwise, who's the foreigner here?
Well, and when we're talking foreign, we're talking about globalization. You know what I mean? We're talking about geography. We're talking about location. We're talking about those things. But foreign in and of itself has other context, and I think you even allude to this in your review. And you're talking about foreign as strange or
Mm.
other or separate. And what I'm trying to think about is like, is that idea the idea of including we were talking about it a little bit earlier and in the main part of the episode, you know people who are on the fringe,
Hmm.
is it saying they're still on the fringe even after all of this time? Is that by curating it this way, is that a lens as to
Well,
There are
This
people
is a
still
very good
fall in
point.
society, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's still a
This is a
caste
great
system
point
for
that
this.
you're making, because while I say we're not foreign because we're everywhere, um, I feel, which is like this contradiction of title, I feel that what he really should be talking about is our strangeness, our foreignness, right?
Hmm.
So I make a statement at this conclusion in the piece that it's not the foreigner, but the foreignness that he should be showing us in an exhibition. And how would he do that? I mean, that's the question, and that's very difficult.
Well, and to me, that seems so much more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, instead
Like,
of pointing out who's foreign, which is wrong,
right.
like what if he's interested in foreignness and strangeness and otherness, then show us foreignness and otherness and strangeness. And that he doesn't do. In fact, I feel like he normalizes the global south, you know. He just normalizes it.
So
I think this is part of, we had this earlier conversation about political correctness, about
Mhm.
inclusiveness. We're in this era, of cancel culture, all this stuff.
Yes.
The basically the impulse is a good one. It's to be inclusive. It's to be politically correct. But it backfires. It fails. Because I think it's trying too hard.
Do you think the obviously, like, as a stand-up comic, I'm very interested in words. Do you think that if he changed that to foreigners everywhere, if it was foreignness everywhere, like, that would have put a completely different context on the entire show?
The show is too traditional. I mean, I think what can you do? It's the Venice Biennale. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, international exhibition in the world, and it happens every 2 years in Venice. The entire city becomes a museum, basically. Um, I don't know how he could have done it otherwise, but he should have tried. It's
Yeah.
like empty those spaces and make it all happen on the outside of them. I don't know. I mean, I suggested um, in my review, like not for him, but I suggest of like an exhibition that would
Yeah,
be
I
about
think you gave a good
otherness or about
one.
strangeness or about queerness, like set it in a back room, in a bed, like, I don't know, do
Yeah.
something interesting. But now the format of this just, in fact, it also reinforces stereotypes for me of third world, rather developing world artwork, indigenous artwork. Um, yeah, religious based artwork, it kind of, yeah.
It goes back to that book. Do you remember White Walls and Designer Spaces? And it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the idea of the gallery itself, the idea of the museum itself, and we're gonna link a bunch of your articles. But one of the things I really liked about the the essay and article that you did around the Belgian artist that was visiting Florida, and we'll link that, was about the art being the act of being there in the moment and seeing the performance work, and then the discussions and even friendships and community that was kind of built out of that
Mm,
experience and that
mm.
communal experience. And it almost seems like so much of what we've constructed needs to be completely disrupted in order to really experience contemporary art now.
Yeah, I mean, that piece was about kind of a social engagement piece, and also the kind of redoing of a work of a dead queer artist
Mhm.
from Brazil, by coincidence. And but it got me thinking a lot. I mean, I've been thinking about social engagement for years now, and the work that comes out of that, a lot of which I don't like, some of which I really do like. And it does question, the whole passive experiencing of an artwork in a museum on a wall, like something on a
Mhm.
wall or something on a pedestal. And it's something I think about a lot. On the other hand, I feel like with what's going on in the world with regard to artificial intelligence, for example. And by the way, I think this is why some people really liked this Biennale, is because there's so many just handmade objects and a lot of
Mhm.
craft in the work, a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
color,
You talked about
yeah, a lot of
textiles in that
textile
a
work and
lot.
stuff.
And
And people are drawn to that now because of AI, I think. We're quite afraid, but that could also be seen as reactionary. So I honestly, I don't know what to make of it. I'm an object maker,
Mm-hmm.
though my work has this sort of performative quality. There's a lot of reflective surfaces that it changes as you move around it. Um, and as we spoke earlier, I videotape a lot of my work because it works better documented that way. But
Yeah.
but but is the documentation the work or is the object the work? And I loathe the idea of all this work that I've made that hasn't sold, that isn't in someone's home or isn't in a museum, which in and itself is like being dead in an archive.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with all this work? And how will it live? And what is the work? Is it the thing itself that no one sees, or is it the documentation of the thing? These are hard
Or is
questions
it
that
the
artists
act of
ask.
moving around it?
Yeah,
Like there's
and that's only fleeting and for one moment if you're lucky to have seen my work somewhere.
right.
So
Um, well, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation. We're gonna link all of these things because I think everyone should definitely dive into um, what you're looking at and talking about, both in like your autobiographical, memoir-esque essays that are more personal to what you're doing and the life that you've lived, the work that you're making, and the lens that you have as a just wonderful and involved and informed, beautiful gay man over time. I mean, just the evolution that you've seen things through. Like, there's so much depth,
mm,
um, and
thank you, Danielle.
richness to the body of work that you've created. In object, in the friendships that you've built, and in the essays that you've written. So we're going to link all of that. One question that all of my guests get
Oh
asked,
God.
just because I apparently am a horrible human being. Bradley, if you could go back in time and kill anyone, who would it be? Who are you taking out?
Yeah, it's not a question I can answer honestly. I'm 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 a meditator. I can't like conceive of that act. Um, Not that I wouldn't want one or two people on this earth today to
You don't
choke on a
have to
hamburger,
physically, yeah. You don't have to
but
physically be the one to
no,
carry out the act. That's what
yeah,
hitmen are for.
yeah, that's reassuring. Yeah, no, I have to decline answering that question. I mean, for me, it's like a karmic thing.
I
Um,
get that.
it's like uh, they self uh, immolate. Is that the word? Immolate?
Self
They
implode.
self-immolate. I don't have to do the
Yeah.
job for them, right? Because they're evil people.
Hmm.
I've encountered them. I've been in many near death experiences. I've defended myself and stabbed someone in defense, self defense, and I would have killed that person. But the real evil ones, they self-immolate. They do the job for me.
We're going to wish self emulation
I hope that's the
on.
right word. We have to look that up when this is all over.
If it's not, insert the correct word for us,
Insert correct
listeners.
word.
We're gonna wish self emulation on those that are just evil to their core, and
Yeah,
that's what we're gonna
that's
wish.
it. That's
I
it.
like that. That works for me. That works for me. Well, Bradley, thank you again so much for being a guest. And you guys, we have new episodes coming out every Wednesday. We'll see you soon.